One. It's truly a pleasure to join all of you today for this vital announcement. I wish to begin by welcoming Minister Trevor Jones, MPP Will Bauma, and of course, Premier Doug Ford, whose vision and leadership are ushering in a bold and transformative era for both Ontario and Canada. To our hosts, Xanadu Quantum Technologies, Inc., your remarkable work exemplifies Ontario's unparalleled homegrown innovation and leadership in the tech space. Innovators like you are putting Ontario at the forefront of our increasingly digital global economy. Make no mistake about it, our thriving tech sector is indeed a true testament to Ontario's powerful spirit of ingenuity. Witnessing this day in and day out is one of the greatest privileges of serving as Ontario's Minister of Public and Business Service Delivery and Procurement. Ontario is home to over 400 and counting artificial intelligence firms and institutions, cementing our position as a global leader in AI innovation and application as well. Ontario is where tech giants and startups can grow side by side, demonstrating how governments can embrace cutting-edge technology to stay ahead of the curve. Few regions can rival Ontario's ability to foster a dynamic and rapidly expanding tech and business environment. Our strong, thriving regulatory and tech ecosystems, as well as having some of the greatest tech talent in the world, like those at the University of Toronto and in Kitchener-Waterloo, make Ontario a critical player in the global economy and North America's continental defense and security. Ontario's leadership in technology, combined with our long-standing alliance with the United States, offer an unprecedented opportunity to strengthen our nations and secure a brighter future in industries such as cybersecurity, quantum computing, AI, security, and defense. We have the technology. We have thoughtful leadership. We have the vision. We have the determination. Together, we will build an alliance that secures our border, meets today's challenges, and defines the next century of growth, security, and innovation. It is now my great privilege to introduce the leader driving this vision forward. Please join me in welcoming the Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Doug Ford. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Todd, for that introduction. I'm thrilled to be here today alongside Minister McCarthy, that you just heard from, Minister Trevor Jones, and PA Will Bauma. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge Christian and the whole team at Xanadu for the great work you're doing here. We just had an opportunity to take a tour. It's spectacular. As he said, I said, we have a great tech sector, but this is deep, deep tech. As Minister McCarthy mentioned, Ontario is a global leader in tech, quantum computing, and artificial intelligence. We have the best workers in the world, the best researchers, the best innovators. We can compete with any country in the world, with any jurisdiction, bar none. And Xanadu is a great example of that, and I want to thank them. Friends, we're now less than a week away from a new administration in the White House and the real threat of 25% tariffs on Canadian goods entering the United States. These tariffs, which would have devastating consequences for both of our economies, are not something our government is taking lightly. Team Canada is stepping up. In response to growing concerns about how China is ripping off workers, U.S. lawmakers are undertaking one of the most ambitious economic and geopolitical shifts in decades, as America decouples from China and its global proxies. This won't be easy. It will require long-term thinking, and it will require dedication. Most of all, it will require friends and allies. Canada can help. Over the past few weeks, I've been talking at length about Fortress AMCAN, a renewed alliance between America and Canada that's a beacon of stability, security, and long-term economic growth on both sides of the border. Fortress AMCAN would be a true partnership, one that respects each country as proudly independent, with alignment on shared priorities: free, fair, and balanced trade, economic growth, accelerated resource development, and energy security to power economic growth on both sides of the border. For Fortress AMCAN to succeed, Canada needs to demonstrate that we take our shared national security seriously by protecting AMCAN air, land, Arctic, water, and communities. It's why I continue to urge the federal government to present a more credible plan that invests more in Canada's military, to meet and exceed our 2% NATO commitment, including by investing in the future of NORAD and NORAD base restorations. And it's why Ontario launched Operation Deterrence, with 200 dedicated Ontario provincial police officers working with fixed-wing aircraft, helicopters, boats, patrol vehicles, and foot patrol to deter and detect illegal border activity. But we can and must do more. Ontario is uniquely positioned to help Canada and the U.S. meet our shared national security objectives. As part of its increased investments in Canada's military, I'm urging the federal government to work with Ontario, the province's 400 artificial intelligence firms, and our tech and quantum computing firms to develop the next generation of defense technologies. As we leverage Ontario's world-class skills and expertise to solve the security challenges of today and tomorrow, Ontario researchers, Ontario innovators can and should be on the front lines of developing cutting-edge technologies that support the future of autonomous aerial and underwater vehicles, to support our militaries and help further secure our border. The federal government also needs to crack down on illegal immigration with the investments in enhanced biometrics capabilities at Canada's point of entry, including better tracking of entries and exits across Canada's borders. And friends, security extends to our northern frontier as well. Canada's Arctic plays a critical role in our national defense and sovereignty. To secure our Arctic, we need the federal government to continue expanding Canada's shipbuilding capacity, including at Ontario facilities, to build new icebreakers and other equipment that can operate in extreme conditions and assert Canada's sovereignty in the region. Friends, I want Canada and America to be the richest, most successful, safest, most secure, and most prosperous countries on the planet. Fortress AMCAN is how we do it. It won't be easy, and it won't happen overnight. But we owe it to our workers in Ontario, across Canada, and the U.S. to act now. Together, let's stop wasting time talking about a merger that is never going to happen, and instead focus on our efforts on restoring the pride of Made in Canada and Made in America. Let's be unapologetic as we stand up for Canadian and American workers against the world. Together, let's usher in the new American and Canadian century. Let's build Fortress AMCAN. Thank you to everyone joining us today, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you.
We will now open the floor for questions from the media. Please come to the mic and state your name and outlet. Just a reminder, it's one question and one follow-up. First question.
Hi, good morning, Premier. It's Jessica from the Trillium. I want to ask you about the money that you say you might have to spend in response to Trump's tariffs. How much money may you have to spend in response to those tariffs?
Yeah, great question. It all depends on the amount of tariffs, what sectors they're affecting. But I was getting numbers yesterday from the ministries. It could cost 500,000 jobs. This is serious. It's unprecedented. And let's hope it doesn't cost 500,000 jobs. But we need the ability to go in there and support the sectors and the people to make sure we protect Ontario and return Canadian jobs as well right across our country.
Okay. And how will you spend the money? Are you thinking of creating some kind of CERB-like thing to, help people who've lost their jobs? Are you going to be doing stimulus spending, targeted money to sectors that are affected? What's on your radar?
Well, we'll determine that when we see the tariffs come at us and what sectors and what needs, and it's really a good conversation that needs to be had once these tariffs come in. Sit down with the sectors and ask what they need the most.
Morning, Premier. Rob Ferguson, Toronto Star.
Hi, Rob.
Just wondering, you keep talking about a leadership vacuum in Ottawa
Yes.
at a critical time. So
Yes.
wouldn't an election on Ontario kind of create a bit of a leadership vacuum here for 4 or 5 weeks? And
No,
can we
not-
afford to do that right
Yeah,
now?
Rob, not at all. I'll still be Premier if that happens. We haven't decided, first of all, if that's going to happen. I'll still be working, answering the calls, speaking to U.S. governors and Congress people, speaking to other premiers across the province. So you never stop working.
All right, and back to the question about how much money might end up being spent in supports. Do you see that going to companies? Do you see it going to workers? I mean, we already have a federal unemployment insurance system, so do you see that as taking care of workers, whereas the province would need to do something to support businesses? How could that shake down?
Rob, all options are on the table. We want to support Ontario workers. We want to support Ontario companies. Here's a great example right here. Xanadu they're an incredible company. They're employing over 220 people. We're one of the leaders in the world when it comes to tech and deep tech, as they say their language, deep tech. And those are the areas that we want to protect manufacturing jobs. These tariffs will affect every single person. Even if they don't think they're tariffed in their sector, it's going to indirectly affect them. It's not going to be good. I'll tell you that right now. It's no different than when we were facing the pandemic. Companies were struggling. We stood up and made sure that we take care of the workers and the people of Ontario, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Premier Lane from CBC. You just mentioned the pandemic. I'm curious how you see the need for a mandate with this stimulus spending as different than during the pandemic.
Well, it's very, very simple. It was a worldwide pandemic. We had, for the first time in Ontario, unanimous consent on a budget, and I can't say that would happen again. We're looking at spending tens of billions of dollars right now. It's very, very local per se. It's going to be our province that's going to be affected more than any other jurisdiction in the country. We're the ones with the target on our back. We're the ones that the U.S.-elect President Trump is looking at, because we're the manufacturing powerhouse in Ontario, but we're a manufacturing powerhouse across North America. I want to work with our American counterparts. I want to work with businesses on both sides of the border to grow and make us the most prosperous 2 countries in the world, the safest 2 countries in the world. That's what I want to do.
And when it comes to Fortress AmCan, there's a lot of, ambitious kind of high-level goals here. So I'm curious, what do you see as the most realistic and achievable from what's within Ontario's jurisdiction?
Well, I think we're such a diverse economy. There's very few, states or provinces that is as diverse as Ontario is. You look right here at the tech sector, at the life science sector, at the automotive sector, and the mining sector, and obviously the energy sector. And that's just to name a few. We can build anything here in Ontario. As I mentioned in my speech here, that shipbuilding. We need to build ships for the federal government to protect our Arctic. We can build helicopters, planes, ships, kayaks, you name it. We can build anything here.
Hi, Premier. Jeff Gray, Globe and Mail.
Hi, Jeff.
Just following up some of the other questions. When you meet with when the premiers and you yourself meet with the federal government, with the Prime Minister tomorrow,
yeah.
You're going to be talking about retaliatory tariffs. Are you also going to be talking about federal spending of the kind you're talking about, stimulus spending or
Yes.
support for workers? And
Yes,
is there
sir.
a dollar figure or an amount that you're looking for?
Well, we're going to look at their numbers right across the country, but I'm going to encourage them to do the same thing as they did in the pandemic. When companies are hurting, people are hurting, it's our responsibility as leaders in this province to step up and protect the people. I'm here to protect every single Ontarian. I'll use every tool in my toolbox to protect Ontario and the people and protect their livelihoods. That's what I'm going to do.
And picking up on some of the stuff you've mentioned today about defense cooperation, this kind of thing, there are people who say that, and also with your Fortress AMCAN concept, which you're pitching cooperation with a country whose incoming president is talking about using military force against a country with which it has an alliance, talking about an economic attack, those are your words, on our country that could be devastating. There are people who say that, and they said this for decades, that Canada needs to diversify its partners, economic and otherwise, and get away from its reliance on the United States. Doesn't the current situation actually point Canada in that direction?
Well, we're always out there meeting with all sorts of countries, making sure that we have a great trading partner. But our closest allies and friends, are the U.S. We're so much stronger together when we share the same values, and economically we share the same values. Jeff, I just got to correct you. I thought I heard you say military force. I've never heard the president say military force, economic.
He did not rule out using the military to take Greenland from Denmark.
Okay, good
who
point.
was
I
in
thought you were
NATO.
talking about Canada. I apologize.
Which is a bit strange.
Yeah, good point, Jeff. I didn't hear him say about Canada, but go ahead.
Hi, Premier Alison Jones of the
Hi,
Canadian
Alison.
Press. In response to Jessica's question, you had said that ministry officials told you the tariffs could cost about 500,000 Ontario jobs.
450 to 500.
Okay.
At max.
Did they give you, I know you've talked about needing to spend tens of billions of dollars to counter those effects. Did they give you a ballpark range, anything more specific than that?
Well, really, it determines on what sectors are going to be tariffed, right? The ones that are going to be heavily tariffed, we're going to have to be there to support them. And we'll find out on January 20th, January 21st. But we have everything in order here in Ontario. We need the federal government to step up with a solid plan for. We heard a number thrown out there, $1.3 billion for our border protection. Have yet to see anything, nothing at all. Minister McGuinty, he needs to come out of hiding and get out there and start voicing his plan to the Canadian public, plus the U.S. So we need to find out where $1.3 billion is going.
And you said yesterday that you would sort of look to see the impacts of the tariffs, look to see where they are before deciding whether you need to call an early election
Yes.
or not. Do you have an idea of how much time you're going to give it? Are you going to see for days, for weeks, for months?
Well, let's see what happens. I think he's going to try to slow roll it. I could be wrong what he's going to do, because no one can predict what he's going to do. He's very unpredictable. But I can tell you one thing. I've been saying it for months now. I think I was the only one saying it. These are coming. These tariffs are coming. It was like, pulling the fire alarm for the last few months, saying they're coming. So we're ready. Unfortunately, it's going to hurt Ontario and Canadian jobs, but I can assure our American friends it's going to hurt them just as much.
This will be the last reporter.
Thank you.
Good morning, Premier. Mark McAllister from
Hi,
City
Mark.
News.
How are you?
You've got the big meeting coming up in Ottawa tomorrow.
Yeah.
You've got lots of ideas that you're bringing to the table based on Fortress AMCAN.
Yes.
What happens if you don't come up with the consensus?
Well, hopefully we will. I think Fortress AMCAN, I can say I think it's a great policy. There's no reason to be against it. It's real positive, and I know the other premiers feel the same way. We're stronger when we work together with the U.S. than apart. So we all agree on that.
When you go into a meeting like this with lots of suggestions for the federal government, meeting over the course of a day doesn't seem like a whole lot of time to come up with something before the president-elect is inaugurated on Monday.
Well, something, the federal government, I have to say, I'm going to be blunt. They need to get their act together. Simple as that. It shouldn't be up to the premiers to be calling for a follow-up in-person meeting. This should have happened a while ago, and we need to work as Team Canada. We can't have a divided Canada. We have to make sure we all stick together and we're all singing off the same song sheet.
Thank you. This concludes today's announcement.
Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us. We're the strongest jurisdiction in the world, the greatest jurisdiction, the greatest country in the world, and we're going to keep fighting for the people of Ontario and Canada. Thank you so much.